Welcome everyone. Welcome to Planting Stories, Growing Readers, Championing Reading for Joy with contextual and inclusive picture books. This panel today is a collab action between Pratham Books StoryWeaver and Ek Step Foundation for Bachpan Manao, Badhte Jao. Bachpan Manao is an initiative dedicated to bring attention to the abundance in the first 8 years of the lives of children, to recognize and celebrate the incredible learning and growth that is happening in this age. One of the things that brings tremendous joy to both children and the caring adults is the act of telling stories and listening to stories. It creates a safe and joyful experiences for children to grow and thrive, which is why we've co-created this panel with Pratham Books StoryWeaver. The journey of collab action with the StoryWeaver team has been super energizing, and this is just the start. So I welcome all of you this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful time listening to the lovely lineup of speakers we have. With this, I hand over to Kritika from StoryWeaver to begin this celebration of the magic that happens when a child discovers the joy of stories. Over to you, Kritika.
Thank you, Hita. I think celebration is the right word that comes to mind. And today is about celebrating everybody who makes it possible for children across the country to read. That also means that we are celebrating each of you who have joined us here today. So this is about all of us together. And when we talk about stories, it's no fun to just talk about them without listening to an actual story. So we have for you here today a renowned international storyteller, Seema Wahi Mukherjee, who's also a puppeteer, an education consultant, and a storytelling coach. Can we have Seema Wahi on the stage? Please enjoy the lovely story.
Thank you so much, Kritika. So thank you so much. And I am so glad to be here and have this opportunity to share stories with you. So, today we are going to do a read aloud, and read aloud can be of different types. It can be something in which we stick to the text and something in which we highlight. But today what I'm going to do is an interactive read aloud, mixing elements of storytelling in it. And the story for today is something which we all, not just children, but we all as adults also need to do. And that title is I Love Me. Okay, and this story has been written by Menaka Raman and Ekta Bharati. So let's begin. What do you see here? I would like at least a few of you to interact with me as we go along.
Glasses.
A little girl with wild hair.
I see a joyful girl who is playing with her.
Angry.
Yeah, so can you all make your faces like this with a big smile and tongues out? I'm going to definitely make mine like that. Can you all do it? Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, now let's see what's inside and who this little girl is. Let's meet her. The 23 Shanti Colony is Rubina's new home. As soon as she unpacks her things, she rushes off to Rome. Now, who is Rubina? Do you think this girl's name is Rubina?
Maybe.
Maybe. And she has moved to her new home, which has an address. I'm sure all of you know the address to your house too. And it's exciting, sometimes a bit sad sometimes, to move to a new home. But Rubina here is excited and she's unpacked the things and she rushes off to Rome. But why has she gone out to Rome? What do you say, Varun? Where is she going?
Oh, holiday?
Yeah, quite excitedly as well.
No, to check out the neighborhood.
to check out the neighborhood. Okay, let's see what she's going to do. But as she goes out, her eyes fall on the picture of her with her friends. She looks at them wistfully. She misses her old friends, Nina, Raj, and Som. But now they will be new ones whom she can call her own. So she is going out to maybe make new friends. Let's see who she finds. Do you think others are going to be nice too?
Hopefully.
Okay. So she goes out and she sees a little girl here. Can you see the girl here? Is this okay?
Yeah.
And she says, "Hi, my name is Rubina. Will you play with me? I do love all sorts of games and can even climb a tree. So will you play with me?" What do you think the girl is going to say? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, what would
Maybe.
you have done?
Not sure.
Not sure. We don't know. Okay. So shall we find out?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. Here. The girl looks at Rubina, then points with a shriek. What's that on your forehead? Big hairy streak? Oh, is there a big hairy streak which you can see on her forehead? Just like
Mm.
this.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, Rubina, do you think she's going to feel bad about this?
She's probably used to it.
Maybe. Well, someone might tell me that I might feel bad, but let's see what Rubina does it. Maybe she's used to it. Maybe not. Maybe her friends earlier were kind. Let's see what Rubina does. Rubina loves her eyebrows. What's the fuss about? They are perfect for hiding caterpillars, especially when she's going out. And what now, will they become friends or will Rubina move on? Okay, you know what Rubina did? That girl was not interested in becoming her friend. So Rubina just shrugged her shoulders. Can you all shrug your shoulders like this? Shrugged her shoulders, raised her eyebrows. So raise your eyebrows. Lifted her feet. Okay, so lift your feet, though I can't see them. And she danced off to find some friends she can call her own. Friends who would be kind. Let's see who she meets next. Well, before I turn, do you think the next set of friends would be kind?
Not yet.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Okay, so let's find out. Well, she sees that boys are playing cricket. Goes there and she says, "Hi, my name is Rubina. Can I play with you? I'm good at bowling googlies and at fielding too." Well, the boys look at her. I think there is a bit of a glare, so I'm holding it back. So the boys look at her, and the captain of the cricket team touched her glasses. He was a boy who was very tall, and he said, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Which one will see the ball? Well, do you think Rubina will feel bad about it or she's used to it?
Maybe she feels bad.
Maybe she feels bad. Do you think she's going to cry?
No, she doesn't
No.
look the kind who'll cry.
No, she doesn't look the kind who will cry. Okay, let's see what she does. She does look sad though. Look at her face. Can you see her face?
Yeah.
She doesn't look happy. But let's see what she does. Think about. Well, Rubina loves her round glasses. They remove the fuzz and blur. Nice needles. With a Nani, her grandmother, and threading her needles and find fleers in Rani's fur. That's a dog. So her glasses is something which she loves, just like she loved the eyebrows. So what does she do? Rubina shrugged her shoulders. Everyone shrug your shoulders. Raised her eyebrows. Everyone do that too. Lifted her feet and on to find some friends she can call her own. Friends who would be kind. What do you think? Who do you think Rubina will find now? Will she find a kind friend?
Hopefully.
It's time.
Hope.
Yeah, it's
It's
time.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Let's see what she does. Yeah. She is on this swing and she says, "Hi, my name is Rubina. Can I play with you? We can take turns swinging and see who outswings who." And who's she talking to? These two girls. They look very happy and they look the kinds who would play with her. But the girls looked at Rubina. They looked her up and down. They whispered. Can you all whisper? They giggled. Can you giggle? And they laughed. Can you laugh too? Everyone. And they said, "We don't want to play with you. You are as a giraffe." Now, what do you think? Do you think now Rubina would feel sad after so many, children saying no to her? Let's see what she does. Rubina loved her nimble legs. Yes, they are very long, but they help rescue cats and kites that get stuck in trees or thorns. So she loves her eyebrows, she loves her glasses, and she loves her long, long legs. Let's see what she does now. Now, her smile drooped a bit. She felt a bit sad. Her eyes were not as bright. She missed her friends, Meena, Raj, and Som. They knew how to cheer her up, all right. But do you think she will stay sad or will she move on? What do you say? Will she move on?
She'll move
Yes.
on.
Yeah? Okay, let's see what she does. She shrugged her shoulders. Everyone shrug your shoulders. Raised her eyebrows. Lifted her feet. And she danced off. She decides to play alone. A game that she made up where she is the king upon the throne. And here she is, a king on the throne. Can you see this? And just as she sat there, a boy came and said, "Hi, my name is Alex. Can I play with you? I like to read and write and draw. What do you like to do?" So do you think they're going to become friends, Alex and Rubina? Well, they did. And Alex had two rackets. So they started playing badminton. And this is how Rubina found her first friend. A friend she could call her own, a friend who was kind, and the friend who accepted her just as she was. Thank you.
Thank
I
you
hope you
so
enjoyed
much,
it too.
Shiva.
And all I want to say is, with children, I would do different things, but to all the adults here, I just want to say that sometimes just what Rubina faced we also face it as adults in some different ways, and it makes us doubt our own self. In times like those, remember, like Rubina loved everything about her, don't doubt yourself. Just love yourself and say, I love me. Can you all say that? Keep your hands on your heart.
I
I love
love me.
me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seema, for that. And for
Pleasure.
making us fall in love with ourselves in 10 minutes. That was lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kritika. Thank you for having me here, all of you.
On the back of that wonderful story, let's get talking. Talking about why children need to have literature growing up for a happy, wholesome childhood, and of the people who make this possible. On the panel today, we have Bijal Vachrajani, commissioning editor at Pratham Books and author of many planet-friendly books. Sandeep Maji, who leads monitoring and evaluation at Suchna Community Organization. Nirupama, a library educator with 10 plus years of experience, whose happy space is a library. And Archana Natarajan, a reading champion and parent to the most enthusiastic young reader. Welcome, all of you. Okay, Yes. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are eager to hear your thoughts. I am going to start with Bijal. Hi, Bijal.
Hi, Kritika. Thank you so much for having me, everyone.
Always. Bijal, I want to ask you about how do you, as a bookmaker, think about creating moments of delight for children while you write a narrative or a story?
You know, one of the things that I strongly believe is that we are all made up of stories. I mean, from our ancestors to our daily interaction of telling our friends, saying, look what happened today. It's one of the things that we always do. We want to tell stories. And which is why when we are working with children as well, you need to let the story come first. Often we want to tell something, we want to tell things of importance. After all, stories have values. But we need to center the story. It's the etching of characters, of crafting the sentence. I'm a picture book editor at Pratham Books, and when you're working on a picture book, you know what you do is you take an emotion, you take the emotion of, say, of love, or in terms of I love me, it was about self-love, it was about identity, or if it's about grief, of sadness, of joy, of adventure, you take that emotion and you keep peeling it. Just think of it like an onion where you keep peeling the layers until you get to the core of it. And that's what you do to for children. You distill it into very few words and lots of pictures. So, you know, you think about the craft, about the sentences, how you phrase them, the page turn moments where, you know, you'll turn and then there's that aha moment with when a child suddenly smiles or gasps. And then there's that pause. You decide what will the words tell and what will the images say. As Maurice Sendak, one of the greatest picture book makers ever said, they tell different things. So what I mean is, I think what we are constantly trying to do is recreate on the page that special distillation of what childhood is all about.
Thank you so much, Bijal. I really love what you said in the end about the recreation of what childhood is all about. Thank you for that. We have with us Sandeep. Sandeep ji, namaste. Sandeep ji सूचना के साथ बहुत काम करते हैं and children and reading, they have done a great job of getting children to read consistently. एक book के बाद दूसरी book. तो संदीप जी, आपकी जो जर्नी है और आपके जो प्रोग्राम्स हैं उस पे क्या किए हैं आप बच्चों के साथ, और आपको कौन सी बात पे आज गर्व है कि आपके प्रोग्राम के थ्रू ये हुआ है बच्चों के चाइल्डहुड में? संदीप जी, आप म्यूट पे हो, थोड़ा अनम्यूट करेंगे?
नमस्ते सभी को। मैं सूचना से हूँ। सूचना जब स्टार्टिंग हुआ था 2004 में, तब सूचना ने नोटिस किया था जो हमारा ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी है उसमें संताला कोड़ा दोनों कम्युनिटी है, उसमें ज्यादातर बच्चे लोग स्कूल नहीं जाते और जो भी जाते थे वो ड्रॉप आउट आकर वापस घर चला जाते। तो इसके पीछे क्या रीजन है, थोड़ा सा ये जानने के लिए हमारा छोटा सा रिसर्च किया तो पता लगा। क्योंकि जो संथाल कम्युनिटी और है ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी से है, उनको जो स्कूल में जाने से पहले दिन से उसको अलग सा लैंग्वेज में पढ़ना पड़ता था। इसमें मान लो हमारा बंगाल में जो आ मीन्स अजगर था, मगर शांत अजगर, तो उससे बच्चे को पहले से अलग से मीनिंग हो जाता है। अजगर का मीनिंग अलग है, मगर आ से उसके जो आम से उसके रिलेट नहीं कर सकते थे वो लोग, क्योंकि आम मतलब वो जो सामने वाला है उसको उनको भाषा में समझ में आता था। जो आम जो सामने वाला उसका आम बोलते थे, मगर जो टेक्स्ट में था वो डिफरेंस था। उसके पीछे एक मैंगो का तस्वीर है, उसका बोलता आम, तो वो पहले से थोड़ा सा कॉन्फ्यूज में चला जाता था। तो सूचना ने नोटिस किया। इसके साथ साथ और एक चीज था, जो स्कूल का टीचर भी है वो भी नॉन संतल है, तो वो भी समझ नहीं पाता। वो सही ढंग से पढ़ाया मगर बच्चे लोग नहीं समझ पाए इसके वजह क्या है। तो सूचना पहले उसी दिन से स्टार्ट किया था जो उनको भाषा में कुछ मेटेरियल्स बनाना है हमको, वही से जाननी शुरू हुआ था। और इसके साथ साथ हमारा स्टोरी वेवर के साथ टाइप हुआ, तो बहुत सारी किताब हमने ट्रांसलेट किया। अभी तक संताली में 400 प्लस है, उसमें दोनों स्क्रिप्ट है, एक संताली बांग्ला स्क्रिप्ट है, उसके साथ साथ एक ऑलचिकी जो संताली का ऑफिशियल स्क्रिप्ट है वो भी है। और हम लोग कुछ बाइलिंगुअल स्क्रिप्ट स्टोरीज भी बनाए हैं, जिससे जो टीचर लोग हैं जो नॉन संताल है, जो संताल पता नहीं है, उसको बांग्ला स्क्रिप्ट से ही उसको लैंग्वेज थोड़ा सा समझ में आए। और हम लोग ये क्या हमारे जो मटेरियल्स है वो भी उनको कैसे पढ़ाना है ये भी उसको सिखाया। तो हमने जो नोटिस के अभी ड्रॉप आउट नहीं है, दो एक है, ज्यादा नहीं है। तो इससे हमारा अच्छा लगा क्योंकि अभी बच्चे लोग पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं। और जो हमारा लाइब्रेरी सिस्टम है सूचना में, तो अभी 32 विलेज में लाइब्रेरी है। वीकली एक बार जाता है और बोई बच्चे लोग नेता है लेकर वो पढ़ाई करता है। और वो स्टोरी हमारे टीचर तो एक बार बताते हैं, फिर खुद बच्चे लोग जब किताब लेते हैं उनको पता होता है ये किताब में क्या स्टोरी है, तो वो लोग खुद हैंड राइज करके बताते हैं ये स्टोरी मैं आज बताऊंगा। तो इससे हमको बहुत अच्छा लगता है। तो बच्चे लोग खुद जो पढ़ाई नहीं कर रहा था वो अभी खुद आगे आए, मुझे चांस दीजिए बोलने के लिए, ये बहुत अच्छा लगा।
थैंक यू संदीप जी। वो बहुत बड़ी बात है जब एक बच्चा आके बोलता है कि मैं आज कहानी पढ़ूंगी, तो थैंक यू सो मच। और संदीप जी और सूचना का वर्क बच्चों के लिए ट्रांसलेट करना सिर्फ उसके लिए नहीं, लेकिन टीचर्स के सपोर्ट के लिए ट्रांसलेट करने के लिए भी है। और thank you for sharing that. Coming to you, Nirupama, you get to be with children and observe what really happens when a child interacts with the storybook. Can you share some moments that you remember from your journey as a librarian? What is that palpable feeling when a child and a book interact?
Thanks, Kritika. And I think I'm going to take a leaf out of Seema's book and what I witnessed right now today when she did the story, that all of us, when we were shrugging our shoulders or trying to guess what was happening with everything. So I think that moment is very, very precious when we're working with children. You know, as a library educator, we go in with so many expectations saying that they need to get this out of the story and that out of the story. But when we sit with children and you see them, looking really closely at a picture, or they're trying to understand or make predictions about the text, or they're asking a lot of questions when the story is on. I think I live for those moments to see, it's so easy to just go and read the story, read every word aloud and actually do an interactive read aloud with them. So I think those are some really precious moments. Or when I've done book talks with children, you leave it at a hook and then they reach out and try to grab the book and walk away with it. So I think it's so important to have a huge variety of stories to show children. And also kind of when they make that emotional connect, just like Bijal said, that you have to look at the sentence, look at how it's arranged, how the pictures are going to be, what are we trying to achieve by making this book. I think a lot of emotional connections that happen, the gasps, the participation. I think we really, as library educators, we go in hoping for that. And just having a lot of fun with children, not going in with an agenda to say that, it has to go exactly this way, because they have minds of their own. They're going to ask you so many different kinds of things. And I think just going with the flow and waiting for that magic to happen when you work with them.
Wow. Thank you, Nirupama. I think, yeah, a lot of times we go in so prepared that we forget to have fun. So thank you for reminding us of that. We come to you, Archana. Archana, you probably have the most first-hand experience of reading with your child. So what does that reading time mean for you with your son?
That is one of the most, the best bonding time which I have with my son over the entire course of the day. Earlier, when he was younger, we used to read throughout the day, like one book in the morning, one book in the afternoon, one book at night. But now, because he goes to school, so night is the time we pick up books, and we have a rack in the room, and he picks up one, two, three, four, five. He said we have to sleep, but that's how it is. There is some days when we feel very tired and my voice is like, I'm a little tired. Can you just flip through the book? So he starts crying. So the impact of the books have become in such a way that if we deny reading to them, or some days I says, okay, can we just not read today? Can we read more tomorrow? Today it's very tiring and you have to sleep. So he feels very upset. So we have made it a point that no matter what it is, even if we are choked in the voice, we are busy, we read one book at least to him. So that's how it is. And we started small. So I feel a lot of Indian literature, the books which have been written for Indian children by different publishers, they have got a major hand to make children aware of our current surroundings. They feel very familiar. The stories set in different settings, different parts of the country. Of course, there are books which are very good, which are different, set in different parts of the world. But I feel the way Indian children's literature has risen up to leaps and bounds, and the kind of books they have published. I have endless choices and my rack is full. I just don't know how to it, but it's a very wonderful feeling to have a child who is asking for a book and wants to read and wants to tell something. So I have had a very nice journey, and I hope I support my kid in this journey throughout, where he becomes an independent reader and starts, uh, I starts motivating his friends as well to that level.
Thank you so much, Archana. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have met her son, and it's fantastic to hear what he has to say about the stories. So what I'm hearing is it takes a thoughtful picture book maker, a committed organization that is translating into a language that children understand and can feel in, a dedicated librarian and a parent to actually get a child ready for reading. And it's wonderful that all of us are playing those roles. Coming back to Bijal, I want to ask you, Bijal, Pratham Books has a very different kind of publishing model. All of our content is in the open domain, and we have StoryWeaver where books can be translated, and so what is your motivation to create in such a model? What makes you write?
I think 2020, when the world started shutting down, suddenly we were all, I remember our warehouse shut down at Pratham Books. And suddenly what we started seeing was just traffic on StoryWeaver. And to me, I think one of the most powerful moments was when the community library project decided to make Dunya Sabki, which was this lovely program where they got stories narrated by their librarians to each child in their house who didn't have access to books at home. The first stop was our stories because they're all open source. They didn't need to get permission. They needed to attribute, and that's about it. And seeing those stories travel at that time made me just realize what the power of open is. Getting these books get to children. And then the other thing is that they get to them in languages that are their own, and that the languages that you dream in, that you speak in, that you listen in. My own book, What's Nima Eating Today, is translated in 68 languages. Where else am I going to get some children listening to this book, reading this book in that many languages? I think so. A lot of it is really about uh, joy, and it's a collaborative sort of joy, whether it's the creators. So, as writers, we work with our editors, we work with our art directors, and vice versa. It's that joy of telling a story that's not mandated by what the sales department team wants, but what the field wants. We're constantly listening, and uh, you know please send in suggestions. We'd love to hear more about what kind of stories you'd love to see on the ground. But it's that power of collaboration that I think keeps us wanting to create more stories for children to take and make their own. I must tell you, one of my favorite moments was we went to Goa with Bookworm Library. And this one boy was reading this book in Nepali, and um, he had his family had moved from Nepal to Goa for work, and he walked up to me and said, "Teacher, ye dekh, meri language hai." I mean, this child found a bit of home in this library. That's why I think we do what we do.
Thank you, Peter. The word that kept coming to my head when you were talking is Ubuntu. That is all of, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but I am because we all are. And collaborative joy, I think, is such a nice word. Thank you so much. संदीप जी, आप सांतली और कोरा में इतने सारे बुक्स ट्रांसलेट किए हैं, तो आपको ये ट्रांसलेशन करने की मोटिवेशन क्या होता है, और इससे पेरेंट्स के लाइफ में या जो पेरेंट और स्टूडेंट्स जो इंटरेक्ट करते हैं बुक के ऊपर, उसमें क्या फर्क आपने देखे हैं? संदीप जी, आप फिर से म्यूट पे हो, तो थोड़ा अनम्यूट करें।
बेसिकली सोचो ना, जब ट्रांसलेट शुरू किया था, पहले से शुरू किया था, खुद का स्टोरी था, तो इतना स्टोरी हम लोग खुद नहीं बना सकते थे। इसीलिए जब प्रथम बुक से और स्टोरी से लिंकेज हुआ, तब बहुत सारे हमको सोर्स मिल गया, बहुत सारे इंग्लिश स्टोरी मिला, बहुत सारे सांतले बांग्ला स्टोरी मिला, जिससे हमको ट्रांसलेट करने में बहुत अच्छा हुआ। जो स्टोरी, क्योंकि हमारा कम्युनिटी का जरूरत था, जो बच्चे लोग उसको नीड्स था, तो सिर्फ हम 5-6 स्टोरी बनाकर कम्युनिटी का जो चाहिए है उसको मिटा नहीं सकता ना। तो इसीलिए जब प्रथम बुक से बहुत सारे स्टोरी, अभी तो हमने बताया 400 सांताल स्टोरी है और 275 स्टोरी कोड़ा में है। तो हमारा जो 32 लाइब्रेरीज है, उसमें 100,000 प्लस स्टूडेंट है, जिसको बहुत वीकली नया नया स्टोरी मिल रहा है। तो उससे उन लोगों को एक पढ़ने का बहुत इंटरेस्ट, दिलचस्पी आ रहा है इसमें। तो वो जो स्टोरी लेकर वो घर में जाता है, वीकली एक स्टोरी रख सकते हैं, वो किताब रख सकते हैं। तो जब घर में वो स्टोरी पढ़ता है, तो उसको पेरेंट्स को भी ये पता चलता है क्या स्टोरी में है। क्योंकि हमारा जो संताल कम्युनिटी है और कुड़ा कम्युनिटी है, उसको पेरेंट्स को इतना बांग्ला डिफिकल्ट है, वो पता नहीं चलता क्या पढ़ रहे हैं। मगर उनका खुद का लैंग्वेज जब पढ़ते हैं, तो उसको इतना अच्छे से समझ में आता है। पेरेंट्स भी ये लर्निंग कर रहे हैं, इसमें बहुत सारे स्टोरीज को पता चल रहा है। तो ये हमसे बहुत अच्छा लगा, और बच्चे लोग खुशी खुशी ये पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं अभी, ये बड़ी बात है हमारे लिए।
Thank you, Sandeep ji. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sandeep ji and team have done a wonderful job. आप कितने translations किए संदीप जी अभी तक?
अभी तक संताली में 400 प्लस है और कुड़ा में 275।
और इसके पहले तो बुक्स मिलते ही नहीं थे बच्चों को, तो आपने इतने बड़े लाइब्रेरी क्रिएट किया है। थैंक यू।
हमारा टीचर लोग जो था, वो सिर्फ कुछ किताब बनाया था खुद के लैंग्वेज में। तो अभी तो बहुत सारे हो गए हमारा, तो हमारा लाइब्रेरी अभी सक्सेसफुल है।
थैंक यू सो मच संदीप जी, इतने बड़े रिपोजिटरी।
और तो एक ऐड करना चाहूंगा।
हाँ जी।
अभी हम लोग कम्युनिटी में मोबाइल में जो स्टोरीवेवर साइट है, उससे रीडिंग का एक्सेस दे रहा हूँ और ट्रेनिंग दे रहा हूँ। तो इससे जो बोई अभी तक प्रिंट नहीं हुआ, वो डिजिटली एक्सेस कर सकते हैं।
करेक्ट। Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, Sandeep ji. Nirupama, coming back to you, I want to ask you, what are some things as librarians that, we can do, or as reading enthusiasts, to support children to build their reading stamina? What would you say about that?
I think there's so much, so much that we can.
Okay, 4 things.
Four
3
things.
things.
I think the first thing to do is to think about it as reading for pleasure and not for pressure. Sometimes we get too caught up in saying that the child has to check so many books off and make sure there's a reading program in place, etc. But I think the biggest gift as librarians that we can give them is to offer them the choice of many books in the languages that they want to read in. And, just working with them today a child might not want to read and say that, ma'am, I'm not somebody who enjoys reading, so I'm not going to do it. Be patient, hold on, it will happen, because there is a book for every child. It's just a question about getting there. And you have to facilitate that journey. Just to share an example that comes to my mind, I had a child in grade 8 who was extremely, he was invested in robotics. So he was very fond of working with robots. We used to build his own robots and everything. And whenever I would talk to him about taking a book from the library, he would just tell me, no, ma'am, there is no book in this library for me. Till one day we had a conversation about this book called Fish in a Tree by Linda Mullally Hunt, I think. Yeah. And he took the book, he read the blurb, and he looked at me and he said, ma'am, I think I'll borrow this and go. And he came back to write a response about the book saying that, and in the response, I remember him writing saying, I've always thought that I did not fit in with my classmates, and that is why I would resist doing the things that they wanted to do, because I was into robotics and I had the things I wanted to do and, my interests. But when I read this book, it he saw himself, it worked as a mirror for him, and he saw himself in that book. Now, if we just let it go and say, okay, the child doesn't want to read, and why do we want to force him? I think we kind of limit what is possible in the library then. So it's important to keep having those conversations, build it up slowly, build it up, interact a lot with them, give them a variety of activities to do. Sometimes children may not want to read in that particular library period. Why don't you engage them in a game? Let the library just become a safe space for them to come back and enjoy it. And one day they will pick up a book and read. As you go through it, slowly talk about it, all of that. And of course, there are tons of things like read alouds, doing these book talks, also building a sense of ownership towards books. So anything that you do with a book, I feel children do get involved in it, whether it's taking care, you do the book care work with it, or you tell them that, okay, why don't you help me shelf the books today? Don't have to read them. Let's just shelf the books together. You're taking that one step closer towards things. And if you do it consistently, do it with, intent, I think the strength and stamina always builds. It takes time. It's like long-term investment, since we all understand finances. You put in that time and effort today, you will see the investment a few years later.
Thank you, Nirupama, for sharing that. Yeah, I think it is a long-term investment. And I wish every school has a librarian like you who's present for their readers. Thank you for sharing. Archana, coming back to you, are you here, Archana? You can hear me? Maybe not. Okay.
Sorry, I'm driving, but I can still listen to you.
Okay, all right. Oh no, Archana. Okay, Archana, I wanted to ask you, what does your son carry from any book that you've read to him? Do you want to tell us something from there?
Yeah, actually, he tries to relate to some of the characters, what he is seeing in the different books. So I would talk about one recent book, like one of the books which he really liked was Dive. So that level 3 book, which, it spoke about a lot of these sea creatures, about scuba diving and everything. So he was able to read it and understand. But recently we went to one scuba diving experience where my husband could go, and then he understood what it is. And then we went to a sea where we actually saw all those fishes, the sea creatures. And he told, Amma, we read this in Dive book. So that is where I felt so good. And he's seen those creatures, he's able to understand. So some things like that he tries to relate to. For example, he likes Hakim Sikaps also a lot. So he laughs at it, and because of the start of this one day one story, we read it a lot, and he remembers all the lines by heart by now. And he laughs, and when somebody burps, He says, Amma, that is like Hakim Sikap's and he had a burp and he has a belch. So many things he says. So some things like that. And we discuss a lot on books. Recent favorite is the travel series of Nannamal Kamlatan. All three, the sea, the road, and the air. So he loves that. It's so nice. So that's how he relates to every small thing from different books and picks up things.
Thank you so much, Archana. That was a very dangerous response with driving, but thank you so much for.
No. I am on auto mode. Don't worry. It's
Okay,
it's on
all right.
Bluetooth.
Thank you,
I
Miss.
am driving. Don't worry.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Okay. Thank you, Archana, for that. I think
Yeah.
this is what everybody we speak to at Pratham Books also talks about, that what children read in a story, if they're able to remember it when they see it in their real life, that's quite the feat. I want to end this panel with a question for Bijal. Bijal, as an author and an editor, what are some recommendations you really have for anybody who's trying to integrate children's books into their education approach, or their engagement with a child? What are some recommendations you would have?
So you mean tips or
Yeah, what should we think about
Okay.
when we?
Sure.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think although experts have already spoken, I think they're actually the people you should be listening to. And I'm just going to expand on it more than add to it. I think making reading integral to growing up means you have to be part of that reading journey, which means that read with them even when they're past the reading age. You often find that children are fluent readers and then they lose interest in books. Maybe sometimes they need that constant companion, even when they say, okay, now I can read by myself. Read with them, discuss it with them. Daniel Pennack has a lovely book called The Rules of Reading. And one of the things that he talks about is just the power of reading aloud, as we already saw at the beginning with Seema. Reading aloud just makes so much of a difference in sharing that joy of reading. So pause, discuss, and even with a wordless book, you can read aloud together. Um, don't make an academic meal out of it. Also, like I've seen sometimes forwards going saying, don't give screen time until they finish so many hours of so many minutes of reading. I think reading is actually fun. And so don't make an academic meal out of it. Make sure that it's centers on pleasure. Like as adults, we read for pleasure. The same that goes for children. And I think going back to what Nirupama was saying, let them choose, give them a sense of agency about, I picked this book and I read it today. That sense of agency is something that stays and helps create a reader. But, looking at the comments, I think everybody's already on that track and in a big way. So more power to everything that all of you do as parents, as librarians, as teachers. So thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you for pretty much summing everybody's experiences together. Thank you, everyone, for speaking with us. A big round of applause for our panel. Thank you, Archana, Nirupama, Sandeep Ji, Bijal. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you, Kritika.
Okay, up next, I have a
Thank you so
very
much.
exciting segment for all of you. We have with us none other than Lanu. Lanu, are you here? Lanu's.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can we spotlight Lanu? So we have Lanu here and we have Archana Mohan. Can we spotlight Archana as well? Okay. Both of them are from different organizations, but working on projects that are really creating new paths to access storybooks. We have Lanu with us today from the Forgotten Folklore Project by Sauramandala Foundation, and she leads the project, which is on creating contextual reading material for children, and they just finished creating 45 storybooks in Meghalaya. Congratulations, Lanu. And Lanu is going to speak to us about the joy of having your culture represented and having contextual books to read from a young age. Apart from that, Lanu herself is also an illustrator and a comic artist. So check out her work. She puts it under midget, is it, Lanu? Is what it's called?
Sorry. I lost you for a while.
Okay, no, I was just talking about your personal work as well and asking people to check it out. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And we have with us Archana Mohan, who is the co-founder and content head at Bookosmia. And she is a neurodiversity ally. She's an author herself, having authored 3 very unique books. You should ask her sorry, we don't have the time to go into each of those books, but you should ask her about it. And she is currently also working on a project called Not That Different, which she will be speaking to you about. Welcome, Archana, and welcome, Lanu. Yes. Okay, we did. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. The format of this session is going to be in a breakout room. So we are going to split the audience into 2 breakouts where you will get to interact and engage with each of the speakers. And we will share the content from the other panel also with you on email, so you wouldn't be missing out on much. So yeah, have a great discussion, and I will see you back in a couple of minutes. Hita, you want to do us the honors of putting us in breakouts?
Yeah, Kritika, I'll be opening it.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Varun.
Hello. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Hi,
Ma'am,
good evening.
Sadharan Foundation, sir.
Welcome. Thank you for joining today. Maybe should I just start presenting? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Lanu, you can go ahead. Everyone that's here. So you can go ahead and
Cool.
share screen.
I'll share my screen and then we'll get started.
Hello, I am Arshu from Prajayatna.
Hello. Hi. So I'll just get started. As Kritika introduced, I'm Lanu from the Forgotten Folklore Project, and I'll be speaking a little bit about contextual literature and why it is so important. So our project is called the Forgotten Folklore Project, and over the past 2 years, we have curated 45 storybooks and 135 in translation in the dialects in Meghalaya, Khasi, Garo, and Panar. So if I'm to ask you something about your childhood and ask you to just think about maybe one rhyme or a storybook that you read as a child, most probably mine personally, I would think of Baba Black Sheep or maybe a London Bridge, because those were the songs and the rhymes we grew up with. I would think about Snow White and Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, stories like that, where these were stories, good stories, but they were not, skin tones were different. People had blonde hair. There was nothing about my culture represented in storybooks that I read growing up. So what we are doing in the Forgotten Folklore Project is we're addressing the lack of contextualized content for children. So this was clicked just last year in an Anganwadi center in the East Khasi Hills in Milliam. So you can see Goldilocks and other very irrelevant sort of characters that you see. We do not usually eat with spoons like that. We do not have blonde hair. We absolutely do not dress like the way that you see here in storybooks. So our literature or our culture was never really represented in the mainstream, especially coming from the Northeast. I never saw my own culture being represented in well illustrated storybooks, picture books that were already there. So what we have done is 45 storybooks, aspects like folklore, culture, heritage, and traditions of the people here. And all the artwork that you see throughout in the presentation are all, artwork from 45 of the storybooks that we have made in the past 2 years. So all the 45 storybooks are in English, Khasi, Garo, and Panar, available in digital format on the StoryWeaver platform. They are in print. We're on almost, on the way to make 6 read-alongs of this 45 books. And we have also short animated videos. So when we say something about contextual or contextual literature, I'll just come to this. So when we speak about contextual literature, curation of content is so important, and I wanted to speak a little bit about the content curation that is done by the team, because without actually understanding a community, you cannot write stories about the community. So what we do as a team is we go and identify storytellers, we go and interview, the team goes and speaks to these people, and then we collect these stories. It could, I'll take an example of a festival called the Shatsuk Mansim Festival. So it is a festival by the Khasi people. So we ensured that we went and interviewed these people, spoke to these people, understood what the Shatsuk Mansim is, collected field footages. If you see the image here, the one where everyone is geared up in their whole, traditional outfit. So this is from the Shatsuk Mansim Festival. So we go and then the team documents it, and then we bring it back, and then we write a fictionalized story based on the research that we have done, and but also ensuring that it is well represented visually. We get the skin tone right, we get the features right, and our research is in place. The first story that the first image that you see here is from Kongtong village. It's a very famous village here in Meghalaya, where it's also known as the Whistling Village. So the team went there, we went there, and then we interviewed them. We understood the concept, or why they whistle names. They have tunes for their names. So those kind of information, we bring it back, and then we write stories, well illustrated stories based on the research that we have done. So when we speak about context, it is very important that we get to understand a particular culture well, because unless you understand a culture or a community well, and the small nuances, or the beliefs, traditions, the sometimes religion that they follow, or their culture, general practices, how do they celebrate their festivals, what are the indigenous flora and fauna that is found in a region. So unless you understand all these small nuances, I think contextual literature for children will not be possible. And the Sauramandala Foundation and the Forgotten Folklore Project is keen and is very we ensure that all our research, all our content curation is in place, our research is in place, so that we can come up with beautiful stories that represents the region very well. So content curation by the TFFP team, then we go to the authoring stage, editing, illustration, and the publication. Then a TFFP book is born. So if you look, these are 6 of the titles. The Tunes of Kongtong and When a Hero Sings were also selected by the National Book Trust this year as to be exhibited in Italy at the Children's Book Fair in Bologna. And I'll take an example of the magic in pottery that you see here. So this is a book born out of this particular field visit. So this is from a village called Siju village in the South Garo Hills. It is a very remote village. We had to travel, leave our cars in the middle of nowhere to go reach that particular village. And in that village, there are only about 3 families that practice pottery as a livelihood. And it's a dying art because their children are not willing to take it on. So what the team did was we went, documented the entire process, understood it, and then something like the magic in pottery was born out of it. So we ensure that our research is in place again, because though through the Forgotten Folklore Project, we document practices and culture. And while it is sad that an art like this is dying, and we hope that it doesn't die and somebody takes it up, but should it die? I mean, should the practice stop at some point? Through the Forgotten Folklore Project, we have a practice that has been documented, that has been well documented, plus well illustrated, and there is a story. So even if the practice is no longer there, in the future, there is something to say that, hey, look at this was something that was done in the past. So documentation as a process is also something that we really focus on. So using context, using familiarity, using creativity, we bring all this together to make wonderful illustrated children's book from the region. So these are the 45 storybooks from TFFP Meghalaya. StoryWeaver has been a long-term partner of Sauramandala Foundation, and all our storybooks are up on StoryWeaver to read. So you can sign up, go and type the Sauramandala Foundation, and then look up, and all the stories are up and up for you to read and explore. These are some of the storytelling sessions with the TFFP books. So when I say, context and familiarity is something that we did not have represented in our storybooks growing up. When we did these storytelling sessions in library centers, in libraries here in Meghalaya, in the Chief Minister's Youth Center, another project that we run across Meghalaya. So when we did this, children were able to identify. So there are distinct features. We call it the tamokle in Khasi. So it is a shawl kind of thing that people wear, and it is very culturally relevant because it is an everyday clothing that they wear. Something like a giant kersha, which women tie on their body as an apron. So those were things that were represented. And when the storytelling sessions were being done, children's eyes were fixated on the books when we did, and all the eyes would go, when we did this. So when children can familiarize themselves with everyday surroundings, we identify themselves in characters because it is well illustrated, it looks like them, dresses like them, speaks like them. So children gets familiar, and it's easier for them to relate and bond as well. So I also spoke a little bit about the animations that we have done based on our storybook. So like I said, we grew up. I grew up singing London Bridge without understanding why the London Bridge is falling down, or I have never visited London, in fact. And we are talking about literature for children from remote areas, and these children, they are children that have not even a lot of times traveled out of their village into a small city like Shillong. So we are talking about children like this. So when we are talking about creating literature for children, there is so much potential also for things like animated rhymes in local languages. So this is one example that I will share with you. So this is called My Jing Jing, and My Jing Jing is the sound of cicadas in the Garo language. And My Jing Jing, Ambi Miki, My Jing Jing, Achu Miki. So these are the two lines that have been there since time immemorial. And what the TFFP did was, because these two lines are very popular and everyone in the Garo Hills knows about it, so we approached an author, and then we are a songwriter author, and we asked him to build up on the story. And what he did was compose this song, and we got it animated, and it has been so well received in the Garo Hills that children across in the Garo Hills has been singing this in different functions. And I'll just share a short clip of the My Jing Jing animation and a short clip of the My Jing Jing being sung by children.
We can't hear it.
Tanu, you'll have to reshare your screen and share audio because we're not able to hear.
Sorry, you're not able to hear?
Yes, you'll have to reshare your screen. Just stop sharing and reshare and
Okay.
add
Okay.
audio. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second.
Lana, if they're on YouTube, if you can also share the links with us, we'll share them.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay?
I'll do that. Yes. Is it audible now? Can you guys hear it?
No.
Is it audible now?
You will have to select on share audio while you select your screen.
Okay, 1 second.
It will be a little checkbox at the bottom left.
Apologies for. Audible now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
My jing ambi maki. My jing achu maki. My jing ambi maki. Wange ha 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 dengote na pangen tampi.
I'll just quickly play the other one. So, stories are so powerful, and stories are so powerful. Stories are so powerful, and they can do so much when you have contextual storybooks that are well illustrated and well represented from the region. And something like the Northeast, I speak for the Northeast because I come from the Northeast. So something like this has never been done before, and I'm just so happy to be able to do something like this. To contribute whatever little I can in the curation of these books, and stories that you read as children stay with you even as an adult. So yeah, thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Lana.
Thank you, Kritika. And so nice to see you all. I think it's been a wonderful call so far, hearing all the wonderful panelists and, of course, Seema with her story. Loved Seema's work. Incredible start for today. I loved how we shared stories of our childhood and of reading. The whole thing of what we do at Bookosmia is really based out of that nostalgia. Because Bookosmia, as any word lover would piece it together, just means smell of books. And it's that nostalgia that stays with us for a long time. Doesn't matter how old you get. The magic of books is that it just never goes away. There's a student of mine, when I think he was 6 years old at the time, he would read a lot. And I asked him, what is it that you like about books? Why do you read a lot? And he said, I love books because they don't need to be charged. The battery never goes dead. And I think in the modern generation, that's a great definition to look at books. Stories don't die. If you read the same book you read when you were younger and you read it now, you're going to get a new story out of it. You read the same book 20 years ago, it's going to be a brand new story. And the same book that you're reading today, someone else reads it, it's going to be a different story. And that is the magic of stories. It doesn't matter how many hands it goes through, the magic just keeps on changing and keeps on bringing something new to the table. And it's that magic of stories that led us to start Bookosmia, which really is based on the question that children read a lot of books, they love to read, that's great. But what after that? What happens to the children after that? Because they'll have so many questions, they'll have so many things to share, but what do? And that is when we started Bookosmia, because we wanted every child to feel like they are being heard. this became a safe and non-judgmental platform for them to come and share their views. We started as mainly a discussion for talking about book reviews, but soon we realized that children had so much to say. So whether it is in expressing poems about butterflies or about wars, it was about short stories, or whether it was blogs, photo stories, talking about their grandparents, talking about their pets, children have a lot to share. And we were very, very thankful and grateful to be that platform for children, for being that open platform for children across India and abroad to come in and share their views and get published. We still do. We still publish about 3 to 4 children every single day on our platform, and that continues. But at some point, when we were so sure that we were catering to all children, we had a conversation with Mugdha Kalra, who is a well-known broadcast journalist. She has a son who's autistic. And she said, when you say all kids, are you really catering to all kids? And I think that was an important question that we had to go back to the drawing board. And we realized that we were, in fact, not catering to all children. The thing is that statistics say that 1 out of 5 people are neurodiverse. This is according to the ADHD.org.uk stats. And if you see several papers, they talk about how 15 to 20% of the world's population is neurodiverse. And those are staggering numbers. Just think about the number of people, the number of children that are either underrepresented or misrepresented. That was a huge trigger for us to understand that, inclusion is something that needs to start from childhood. My co-founder and creator and founder of Bookosmia was invited to talk at the Stanford Neurodiversity Project on Not That Different. And she said a very beautiful line. She said, inclusion is not a switch that turns on when you automatically come to the corporate force and attend a seminar on inclusion and neurodiversity. It's a lifelong process. And like most great process, it must start from when you start your life, that is your childhood. UNICEF says that that 0 to 8 age group is the age in which your brain is going to develop at its maximum. That sets the foundation of life and for learning. And at that age, if we start speaking about inclusion, it's going to make all the difference. We have our partners, Bachpan Manao and Ek Step Foundation, with which we work on these issues. And we have seen upfront that when we are afraid of speaking to children, we are actually losing out. The important thing is to use their curiosity. Their curiosity is the most important thing to start a conversation. And all books for us start with questions. We took our core strength, which is understanding children that we spoke to on a daily life, and we realized that if we were to make a difference in inclusion, it should not be from the neurodiverse community. In fact, it should come from the neurotypical community, because real inclusion only comes when it is powered by the majority. And that is how we began Not That Different, which we co-founded with Mugdha Kalra, who I had mentioned, which is an allyship movement for every child, meaning that while they may not understand or they may not have faced firsthand what someone's condition is, they make an effort to learn. They become an ally in the journey and understand what differences are there, and that every one of us has a different way of processing things, and that's okay. That's beautiful. And we did it through a dedicated imprint for inclusion. So we all know the power of books. Yuval Noah Harari always says that the greatest skill for us as a human being is our power of storytelling. And that power of storytelling, that power of books is what we have used as a tool to talk about inclusion, to start the conversation with children from an early stage. So this is what we did. The first book that we did under the series is called as Not That Different. It's a comic book that actually translated questions. So whenever a child looks at someone who is a bit different from them, they have a lot of questions. And mind you, these are very beautiful questions, and they may not all be worded in the appropriate language that we know as woke, but they are very, very important questions. They are important questions that ask questions like, why is my classmate not speaking to me? Why does he make noises? Why does he wear headphones in the class? Why does he suddenly start shaking his hands and legs? And these are very, very important questions to answer. A lot of times we as parents or educators may not know the right words to answer. We know that these are important questions to answer, but how to go about them. And that is why we came up with this book, which answers all of these questions in this comic book format. For example, here you see, we show how it's because of a lot of sounds that a person is unable to filter, which is why they wear this noise cancellation headphones. And believe me when I say, when we saw children reading this book, it helped them understand their friends a lot easier. In fact, we've also had cases where we've had adults who read this book, came back to us and said, I wish I had known this when I was younger. And that is a line we take as we do our books. I wish I had known this when I was younger. I wish I had known what is Down syndrome when I was younger. We did this book called as Extra, which is at heart a beautiful story about cousins, about having fun. Yes, there's a character there that has Down syndrome, but that is not the integral part of the story. The story is the integral part of the story, and just happens to be that one of the characters is neurodiverse, exactly how we want an inclusive society to be. And an important note to as we did this is that throughout every single book that we have done that is on inclusion, we have always had a partner. We've always had someone who's either had lived experience or either who works with children with these disabilities or is a caregiver themselves. In the first book that you saw, the comic book, we had Mugdha Kalra, who was a mentor on that project. And on this book, we had Shivani Dhillon, whose daughter Shreya is an inspiration for the book. And we spoke to her, and she opened up her house and her hearts and her home to us, and we got to know her children and her experiences, the questions she gets to know. For example, she has 3 children, and whenever there's a birthday party, it so happens that the birthday party invite is always extended to the neurotypical child and not to the child who has Down syndrome, even though by age they are quite similar. And this thought, the origin behind how this all happened, shows us that a lot of times people don't really know how to approach a situation like this. Perhaps the intention of the person who had given out that invite was not to single out their child. Perhaps they were just unsure. And we see that in a lot of cases. And it's books like these that helps not just the children understand their friends better, but also help their parents explain to children on what to say if they see a child who's a bit different from them. And what is the impact we've had with books like these? Well, to be honest, we were floored because we never expected that a book organically would be featured on BBC Worldwide, on BBC India or NDTV or The Quint, and that we'd have these wonderful public figures like Shruti Hassan, Anil Kumble, Harsha Bhogle, Lara Datta, British pioneer Dame Stephanie, all of them stepping up organically and saying that we love this book, and finally we have something to speak about autism to our children. And that was a real eye-opener for us. That made us understand how the whole idea of inclusion, needing only neurodiverse caregivers or parents to be involved is absolutely false. I think every child is intrinsically inclusive. You put 2 children in a sandpit area, they're not going to ask each other what brand of mobile phone you have or what car you drive. They are 2 children and they are going to play because that's what children do best. We don't need to teach inclusion to children. They are already inclusive. The only thing we need to do is help them with their curious questions. And with that, we also did another book called Small Stories, Big Thoughts, a very, very special book to us because this book was written by an author who is autistic. She's 17-year-old Aditi Soumyanarayan. This is her debut book. And I want to show you a video of who Aditi is. And I don't want to talk about her book because I think you need to see this. Let me show you. This is from her book launch. It's taking a bit of time. But let me just talk to you about what Aditi has done. Aditi is breaking the stereotypes of what an author looks like. With her first book, she went on to win a lot of accolades and later went on to win the J.K. Paper Author Award for the Best Manuscript. And with all of these accolades under her belt, the kind of self-confidence that she has seen has been amazing. As you can see, she's actually gone on to writing her next book, which, very proud to say, we are publishing this week. It's called as Thus She Rose. The most incredible part about this book is that it has nothing to do with neurodiversity or inclusion, because that's who she is as an author. I think she is breaking stereotypes in the sense she always says, yes, I'm a neurodiverse author, but it doesn't mean I only want to write about subjects that are about autism or about inclusion. I am an author and I will write about what I want to. And I think that's a great statement she makes there. She's written about Kashmir. And I think that's the kind of inclusion that we see with our authors. Another important point that we have done is that it's not just children, it's the whole ecosystem. If you want to talk about inclusion, we need to include the parents, we need to include the teachers as well. That's when true inclusion will start. And this here is called I See You, I Get You. Again, a book that we're launching this week, and we're very excited to launch it. Written by Mugdha Kalra with her years of parenting experience. And what this journal does is basically tell parents that you are being heard. A lot of us know that the life of a caregiver can often be quite difficult. They often feel unseen and unheard. But it's very important for the caregiver also to feel heard, to know that their mental health is also important. So I think that's what this book is all about, that we are excited to launch. Of course, another thing that we're doing is teachers' resources. I know that a lot of you work with children, and this is a project that we are flagging off with the Step Foundation. We are very, very excited for this and how we can take inclusion practices to classrooms. So in a nutshell, we are very excited for inclusion. Our Inclusion Fest that's coming up in the next few days, where it's not just about books. We're telling people that come on here and show all your talents. For example, there's pottery making, there's bongo, there's acrobatics, there's really any talent of yours. Every voice needs to be heard, and yours must too. So our focus is on the neurotypical community, but really our focus is on the entire community. And I hope that you too can participate and be part of our push for allyship on neurodiversity. Thank you. Thank you, Seema. If there are any questions, I'd like to field them, or do we have to go back to the main room?
I think your work is amazing, and I would like to know more about it and also get involved if there is an opportunity. If you could share a little more about this, event which is coming up, in which we can get, how do we get involved? Please do share that.
Absolutely. It is called Stories for Inclusion Fest, and we'll be flagging it off for the whole of this month, 15th November to 15th December, where every day we will be spotlighting one neurodiverse talent in whatever way they want to share. And we'll definitely be sharing more of that with you, Seema.
Great, thank you.
And we invite entries from all of you with your partners. Please do ask them to share as well. We'd love to spotlight all of our neurodiverse talents.
Hey, I think we can leave this